Hello everyone, welcome to Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life by Veena World. We are your hosts. I'm Neil, and as always, I'm joined by Sunila. Today, we're going to go back into Southeast Asia. We're going to talk about an economy, a country that has been fast growing, and one of the main reasons is that it also hosts one of the most important trade routes in the world, which are known as the Straits of Malacca. Today, we are going to talk about Malaysia. Now, Sunila and I have done many trips to Malaysia and we have explored many different islands. So, Sunila, I'd like to start today's episode with a simple question. I'm sure your first ever trip to Malaysia was many years ago. What was Malaysia then? How did you feel about Malaysia? Because I remember that one of the most popular itineraries then and even today is Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, or Singapore, Malaysia. And Malaysia becomes this great place where you see different cultures, a very multicultural society. So what was your first impression of Malaysia and what do you think of Malaysia today?
Hi, Neil. Hi, everybody. Neil, good question. First trip to Malaysia. Wow, I have to go back so many years. But I remember when I did Singapore and Thailand together, actually, I was escorting one of the groups. And at that point, I was doing Singapore and Thailand together as a destination. And I missed out on visiting Malaysia at that point. So it was always, it was always hurting me that I could have easily visited Malaysia along with Singapore and Thailand. But of course, the tour was not planned like that. So my first visit to Malaysia was really interesting because instead of doing the usual things, I did something totally offbeat. And this was go to Taman Negara. Like, as you know, Malaysia has a lot of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. It has tropical rainforest. And on my very first visit to Malaysia, I was swinging on these canopy bridges in the forests of Taman Negara. And after that, we went to Kota Kinabalu. And there was the South China Sea. So the sea was amazing. There was hikes, there were things. But because of that, I actually missed out on seeing what are the more popular destinations in Malaysia. And I told myself, I have to come back to do this. Of course, we touched Kuala Lumpur, but Langkawi and Penang was something which really I missed. And I had seen all these amazing photos of these places. And I said, I'm starting off with something else. Of course, I went for work. I went to check out the different places. And then eventually over the years in my other trips to Malaysia, I was lucky enough to visit almost all these places. And it's really amazing. It's been such a long time since we've gone to Malaysia. I think with everything opening up, it's a good chance to go there in 2020.
I was there in 2018 or 2019, just a quick trip with a few friends. And of course, that was more of a food-based trip, right? Because the chicken satay, the nasi lemak, the nasi goreng, all of those, all of those things are very, very popular. And there's also something called roti canai, which is like roti and curry, like chicken curry that you have with it. But, my first impressions of Malaysia, I still recall the Petronas Twin Towers, right?
Yes.
And because they were the tallest twin towers or the tallest building in the world or something like that until 2004. Even today, they are the tallest twin towers in the world. And just a simple photo stop in like one part of a parking lot which gives you a good view of the towers was great. And then Shah Rukh Khan decided to go and walk on the Sky Bridge in Dawn or Dawn 2, one of those movies.
So
he also walked on the Twin Towers, right?
Bridge. You're right.
Yeah. So, but one of the good things I remember about Malaysia is that everyone says that they are the Twin Towers and you should really go up there. But there is also another tower, which is KL Tower.
The Menara KL Tower, Menara Kuala Lumpur. And
exactly.
I remember walking through the 41st and 42nd level. And it does feel really special because for me, the Petronas Twin Towers are, I correlate them to Entrapment, the movie with Catherine Zeta-Jones. And it was just so stunning in that movie that every time I see the KLCC towers, I can only think of that movie and how spectacular it looked in the movie. I think in the movie, all my eyes were on the Twin Towers more than anything else. So it was funny. But yeah, you're right. Shah Rukh Khan really brought a lot of attention to these towers.
But don't you think a view from the KL Tower will be better than a view from the Petronas Twin Towers? Because from the KL Tower, you get to see the Twin Towers. And that is one interesting thing. Well, that is one
That's
interesting
going
thing.
back to what we discussed last time. Do you want to be inside or do you want to be looking at it? And yeah, I
Exactly.
think the KL Tower observation deck, if I'm not wrong, is even higher than the sky bridge of the Twin Towers. So, it is quite a really good view, and it's a 360-degree view from the KL Menara. So it's nice. I mean, I'm just thinking Kuala Lumpur as a city, not one, but two observation decks, two important towers. You can really
Yeah.
go up high and see the views. That's quite amazing. That's really nice.
Do you remember your visit to Genting?
Nigel, Genting, I briefly remember my visit, but I'm sure it's changed so much now because I couldn't go there and enjoy it like how people do, right? I had just gone to check the hotel, check the room, check the resort facilities. So the best part at Genting for me was the cable car, to go up there and have the view as I went up. Once I went up, I was with our local partners and I was actually working. I was just doing inspections. So it was unfortunate. I was just looking at all the rides, but I couldn't even enjoy a single ride. So it wasn't a
Well,
holiday with friends or family. So it
every
was
time
still nice.
every time I've been to Genting, I've had a blast. And
Wow.
it's just that great. It starts with the cable car. You can take the cable car or you can go by bus. And the cable car, it just feels like you're just going like into the clouds and you don't know where the next station is. And the Genting theme park, which was closed for the long time, has opened
Yeah.
again. And that's great. Then there's the casino over there, where the
Yes.
casino, like, one thing you have to remember is that often people, when you're traveling around Malaysia, you wear shorts, you wear flip-flops and all of that. The casino can't like doesn't allow you to allow you inside if you're in shorts or flip-flops or you're not wearing casino appropriate attire. So Genting was another incredible thing. Now, Sunila, I know a lot about KL, but I've never been to Langkawi. I've
Mhm.
not yet been to Penang, but you've been to
Mhm.
Langkawi, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What is Langkawi like?
The Lankavi, the name itself stands for a eagle. So it means, and the red eagle or so. And when you come to Lankavi, if you just even Google Lankavi, the first image you will see is that of this huge statue of the eagle. And it is a geopark in a sense, like it is a UNESCO heritage site, which is has a lot of mangroves and those things. So obviously the activities connected to that are the things that you can do in Langkawi would be a mangrove tour. And when you go there, you can actually see how the eagles are feeding off the water. So they just come, they touch the water, skip the water, and they go up. So that's also quite stunning. The Dataran Lang is the square or the eagle, which is welcoming everyone like this huge big statue. Two ways to take photographs here. One is, of course, at the square itself when you go there. And then when you do a cruise, it passes by the eagle. So you should really be ready. If you want a perfect shot, then it's probably better from the eagle. And the name of Langkawi, like Helang means eagle and Kavi stands for reddish brown. So in Malay language, Langkawi means the land of the eagles. I'm sure they named it because of that. In the mangroves, you can do kayaking as well. So it's quite pretty. So you have the Andaman Sea and you have these beautiful beaches in Langkawi. So which is why it's quite popular for families, for kids, for honeymoons, and everyone wanting to experience a good honeymoon, whether you're on a tour, whether you're on an individual holiday. Langkawi is really quite nice. The way it is positioned, I remember doing an island hopping tour. And what struck me was that the islands are named in such funny ways here. So one of the island, like if you've done the island hopping tours in Thailand, in Phuket and Krabi is also something that we do. Similarly, in Lanka, we also you will do an island hopping tour. And one of the first islands you go to is called the Pregnant Maiden Island. So it's was quite interesting. But other than that, there is the Beras Basa Island, the Singh Besar Island, and the island is known as Pulau in Malaysian language. So it would be Pulau Beras Basa. And the other, I think that is itself what is known as the White Rice Island. So it's quite interesting to see how these islands are named. Beautiful beaches, amazing water, and amazing colors of the ocean, the Andaman Sea out here. So the island hopping tour is something very, very exciting. And then in the evening, so it's like this really sweet, typical resort places, like island places. So you can have a sunset dinner cruise out there. And in the evening, there are, along the beach, like the Pantai Sanang
Mhm.
beach, there are small shops. So you walk across the roadside, like Phuket, something quite similar to Phuket, like you will have lots of arts being sold, street food and stuff like that. So you can enjoy from morning till evening. And Langkawi was something really stunning for me. Penang also is quite nice and
Before
kind of
before
on the
we
similar
before
lines.
before we move to
Mhm,
Penang or discuss Penang
mhm.
in brief, Langkawi, like we said at the start of the episode, the Sky Bridge is where Shah Rukh Khan, like
Yes,
that's
I
where
almost
the
missed that.
movie ends, right?
Dawn.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And you take a cable car to go there. You walk a little, and you have this stunning sky bridge coming out. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And that's where like they catch hold of him, but then it's not the real Dawn and all of that. And then he has that
Yes.
typical dialogue in that ambulance, "मैं जंगली बिल्लियों के साथ नहीं खेलता है." I remember
Yeah,
like we had gone.
that's all
Um,
there. Yeah.
yeah. So would you say that Langkawi is also a good honeymoon destination? Because of course, as part of our group tours, we do all of Putrajaya, Penang,
Yes.
Langkawi, Kuala Lumpur, Sunway Lagoon. We'll come to all of those. But for our customized holidays, and we have
Mhm.
done many honeymoon trips, or we have planned many honeymoon trips and family trips around Malaysia, because not many people consider Malaysia as a honeymoon destination or Langkawi as a honeymoon destination. And I remember back in the day when I was first introduced to Langkawi, I was just browsing the websites. I had come across the first four seasons, or I
Yes.
had come across four seasons in Langkawi, and that was a beautiful property. So would you say that Langkawi can be a very good honeymoon destination?
Yes, Neil, it can be an amazing honeymoon destination. And like you rightly said, not only the Four Seasons, the Ritz-Carlton, St. Regis, the Datai Langkawi, there are so many beautiful properties out there. And a lot of them, most of them are around the beach. So you can have excellent beach access. You can have an amazing room to relax, beautiful facilities, good food. What else do you want on a holiday? And you
Yeah.
can have that much needed time to actually relax. So you can be as active as you want, like we discussed some of the activities to do in Langkawi. So you can be as active as you want, or you can just chill and relax and just watch a sunset. Like, you can even rent out a private boat, just go in for a sunset cruise. You can go kayaking in the mangroves if you want to get a little more active. So I think that it ticks off everything that you want to do, and it would be a perfect honeymoon destination. And again, hotels to suit every budget. So I think that kind of fits really well
Yeah,
with the.
I quite agree. Now that we've spoken about the honeymoon destinations, I just remembered that Malaysia has a very like intriguing or interesting monarchy system, right? They have
Yes, yes.
right. Was it like nine rulers who from different parts of Malaysia, nine state rulers tend to
Yes.
share like the monarchy and our king every 5 years, and they change every 5 years,
It's very
something like
it's
that.
like a very unique system, and I think it's quite fair. Like, it's a rotating system, so it's called a rotating monarchy system, in which each Malay state gets to be the king for 5 years, and then you pass it on. So it's almost like being the prime minister or something, but no elections. You are the monarch, so you can just keep. And I think that gives importance to every region, and every region then enjoys that. So that was very interesting about Malaysia.
So quickly, you started talking about Penang, or you were going to tell us something about Penang. So like what's your opinion about Penang? How like what what is there to do in Penang, if you are to really think about it?
Neil, what I remember about Penang really was quite funny, because we took a cruise, and one of the stops on the cruise was Penang. So, long back, we had taken all our sales partners once on a cruise for them to experience how the cruise is. And that really, they enjoyed the experience. So you can do a cruise that touches Penang and Langkawi both. and you can combine this cruise from Singapore. So from Singapore, when you leave, you can visit the islands of Malaysia by cruise and go back. Of course, you have to check. This is what we did then. We have to check what are the itineraries now.
Yeah.
And I remember walking by and we had a conference actually in Penang. So we stayed by and we were in the conference. So to be really, really honest, I didn't do too much of the sightseeing in Penang. But what I do remember is walking. Again, Penang has beautiful beaches. So one of the things that you can do is go out on the beaches. But we were walking by the street at night. And what was interesting for me is that it was started raining and I saw a lot of Arabs actually out there. And then I realized that they choose to come in the rainy season because they don't get the rainy season out there. And Penang was very popular because being a tropical area, it has a lot of rain. And Penang was actually quite popular for rain tours. So this was something that was quite new for me. What I did really like in Penang was something known as the Peranakan Museum or the Peranakan Mansion. So
Okay.
Peranakan is a mix of Malay and Chinese. Like Malaysia has mainly a lot of indigenous, like the people who live there are Malays, but then a lot of the Chinese influences, Indian influences. So Tamil, Malay, Chinese, and English are the official languages. And then, of course, the British were out there also. So all of this has resulted in this amazing mixture. And a Peranakan is known as a mix of a Chinese and a Malay. And these Peranakans were known to be very good at arts. So you see a lot of very intricate embroideries that were done by the women, a lot of collectibles, and very rich people. So they were tradesmen and very rich. So like how we have the Havelis in Jaipur, similarly, you can
Yep.
go in and actually see a Peranakan mansion out there. And in Georgetown, so Georgetown is again a UNESCO heritage site of Penang, and it has been given the status because it's still preserved in a very pretty way. So I quite enjoyed the Peranakan Museum. Then you have the Penang Bridge, and you have some other mansions that you can go to. They have a 3D trick art museum now where you can go and take all those funny photos, where they show like it shows like you're in a 3D something, but actually they are 2D photos on the wall and you can take some amazing photos with that. There is a teddy bear museum that you can go and visit. The Butterfly Park of Penang is quite famous, and you can do hiking as well in Penang. Go up to Penang Hill or something. So it's again a really interesting place.
So, one important thing you mentioned over here is that, from what you said, is that Malaysia has influences of Hindu cultures, Chinese cultures,
Yes.
Malay, just Tamilian cultures, and all of that, right?
Yeah.
And that is so much seen in the food, right? Because you have the noodles, but you also have rice, you also have the roti, you have curry, and you have appams, right?
Yeah.
So ayam is chicken, and then nasi goreng is the fried rice.
Nasi
goreng
means rice. Am I right?
Yes.
Does nasi mean rice?
So
Yeah.
yes. So nasi goreng is the fried rice. But that fried rice is very different to a Chinese fried rice. It has some of the sambal paste that is there. Then there is a rendang dish, which they often cook with beef, but you get chicken versions of. And Malaysia being a Muslim country, you will not find a lot of pork over there, right? So that is
and
there.
They use
Then there's
turmeric also, right, in their cooking meal. I think they do use like yellow curries and all that. So it's again
only
similar
find
there.
you'll only find curries there. And surprisingly, roti is a massive part of their food. So they'll have something called the jali roti, which is like literally in Hindi a jali, so roti with holes in it, which looks like a jali. They'll have they'll also call some different types of bread roti, and you'll have these different types of sandwiches. But when you talk about the food in Malaysia, it is more curry based. You'll have the laksa, you'll have the rendang, you will even the nasi lemak that you get, which is
I love
like
nasi
a thali
lemak.
of
I just
different
enjoy
things.
I think it's my favorite dish in Malaysia.
Oh, would you say that?
Yeah, I just like
wow.
it. Or maybe I just had really good nasi lemaks. Let's put it that way. And of course, it's been so long that I can't wait to go back and try all the other things you're mentioning. What's your favorite dish?
Have you heard of char kway teow?
I've heard of it, but isn't that
We've
fried?
had it. It's those
It's
flat rice noodles,
turnip.
which are like a
Right, no, sir.
it's
Yeah,
it's the flat rice noodles, which are
correct.
often fried with some meat,
Yeah,
white soy sauce,
yeah,
and different vegetables, prawn,
yeah,
egg, and everything
yeah.
together. So char kway teow is something that is quite famous. Then there's just like a lot of carb filled dishes. Like you'll have your wontons, you'll have your rice, everything. So it tends to be carb filled dishes. And there
Mm,
is a dessert dish which is known as the ice kachang. And the
mm.
ice kachang you'll get in Singapore, you'll get in Malaysia, because they are just right next to each other, right? And they are just like I quite like those dishes. And you'll often also find many bubble tea shops around Malaysia, because bubble tea is very famous in Far East Asia, in Southeast Asia, and all of these other places. Now, one point I'd also like to mention to you is, when was the last time you took Malaysian Airlines?
Very long back.
Must be a long time ago, right? But
Very
I have
long
had the
back.
chance, like I've had the chance to fly Malaysian Airlines every year since 2013, when we started Veena
Wow.
World. And like, for some reason or the other, and one thing that most people don't talk about is that the service on Malaysian Airlines is impeccable.
And I think
Like,
the
it's,
connectivity
yeah,
also, right? It's great to go
very
to Malaysia, but
nice.
even nice to go beyond. And now that all of Asia is opening up, I think it's a great connection to go to different cities in Asia, Vietnam, other places. You can easily combine and do these amazing routes, right?
And
Yeah.
they have a very nice business class on their twin aisle jets also, the bigger ones. And I quite like that, because not many people talk about it, but
Mm,
it's a very good product. And the service and the food also is very much Indianized. So
mm,
whoever's
mm.
traveled on Malaysian Airlines and they love Indian food, you'll really get a good variety on it. Now, we've spoken about Langkawi, we've spoken about Penang, we've spoken about KL, Kuala
Mm.
Lumpur. What should we talk about next?
I just want to mention, I think before we go on, Neil, that in Kuala Lumpur, when you go to Kuala Lumpur, then you should not miss two things. One is a glimpse into, we spoke about the Chinese culture coming in and the mix of the Pernakans, but the Hindu culture is most evident at the Batu Caves, which is very close
Oh,
to
yes.
KL. And you go climbing up there. And I find it fascinating how culture goes from one country to the other and takes root there. So this huge statue you see there, it's just amazing. The Murugan statue, this really big gigantic statue out there, the caves out there. So Batu Caves is something that you should not miss. And the other thing that you cannot miss when you go to KL is Putrajaya, which is the administrative capital. So if
Yep.
you do have the time, then those are two things that you should definitely take time out of the city, go in and see these places and come back. When I was in KL, I also remember doing like a batik class. Like there was this small thing where they, taught us art on how, which is what you see in a lot of places in Malaysia. And you can buy the fabric. That is, batik is a type of art in which you color the fabric. So it's used in India as well. But here you can do it with, like, say, a silkish fabric, and you put in some wax and you mask that area and you dip it into different colored water and then remove that, and it brings out all these interesting patterns. So that's also something quite stunning. I think what we could discuss next, Neil, is that Malaysia by itself also works out like a really good destination, but it is also great with other surrounding countries. And simply the location of Malaysia makes it so easy. Like if you see Singapore and if you see the map, it's like a little dot, at the southern tip of Malaysia. So to combine Singapore and Malaysia together is a very good way to do the tour. And you mentioned Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia. That is also another really good combination that works out well. Especially, like, say, if you go to Europe, I think you would visit at least 4 or 5 countries together. And in the
Yeah.
same way, you can do it in Asia as well, right?
And you can keep doing that multiple times.
Yes.
Sometimes you can have one city in this country, one city in that country, and you see the confluence of cultures. Because one of the great things about Southeast Asia, similar
Mm.
to Europe, is that these countries are bunched together. And when
Yeah.
these countries are bunched together, you can do multiple countries together. And it also adds to this 50 country challenge thing that we keep talking about, where you set milestones for yourself, complete 10 countries first, then complete 25, then complete maybe 40, and then complete 50. And if there's someone like you or many of our Veena World tour managers, you all are soon going to complete 100 countries. I still haven't completed 50. And that is going to be crazy. But it allows you to complete 3 countries in one go, but also allows you to get a good hang of all of those 3 countries. Have you, like, do you remember Sunway Lagoon?
Yes, Neil. Again, Sunday Lagoon was something I went for work, so no time to enjoy it. But I
Your
just
work
checked
trips,
it out and
I
come
went there
back.
like as a tour manager, and it was fun. It is a
Yeah.
theme park that has everything, so many rides.
It
Like
was really
it was.
popular with the incentive groups as well. Like a lot of the corporate groups preferred going to Sunway Lagoon, and everybody had a blast there. So I'm sure you enjoyed. I think it's nice to visit these countries when you're growing up. With me, I kind of started visiting a little late. So I started, I think my first international trip was when I was 23. So in that sense,
Oh,
I just
nice.
started traveling for work more than anything else, and that makes a difference, you see.
But
So that's why family
good you brought up
holidays in
that.
Asia are important.
No,
Yeah.
good you brought up that point. You started when you were 23, and today you are at approximately 90-ish countries, right? I
Yes.
started when I
Yes.
was 4, okay?
Hmm.
And I'm still at about 39 or 40 or 41 countries. So starting early doesn't mean that you'll be ticking off all countries, like as you have really
True. But
showcased.
my point here was that if you start taking your children to Asia, I think they will enjoy that much more than now, and then relive that when they are an adult. So
Yeah.
for family holidays, I think Asia is a great place. And you mentioned all those wonderful combinations. Another point to add to that, Neil, is that the visa is so easy. I mean, relatively easy compared to the other destinations. There are certain on arrival visa countries here as well. So it's not difficult to combine more than one country here. It's quite easy to do that. So
Hmm.
logistically also Asia kind of fits in quite easily is what I would say.
And it's pretty good shopping also. But you know that one interesting fact that you sent me this morning was that in the streets of Malacca lies one of the biggest treasure troves at the bottom of the sea, right? I don't
Yes. Yeah.
it's so it was a Portuguese ship that had found treasure somewhere, and that was going back to Portugal through the Straits of Malacca. And in the
And
1500s,
yeah.
it sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And there lies, and we watch all of these movies like the Uncharted
Shipwrecks and
series,
treasures.
Nathan
Yeah.
Drake running around trying to
Yeah.
get gold. Then there's National Treasure, where Nicolas Cage is running around trying
Yeah.
to find all of these things. This actually has
Hmm.
like there are a lot of treasures hidden in those Straits of Malacca, because it is one of the it's one of the busiest
Like
shipping
you
lines
mentioned, the
in the world.
trade
Yeah.
route, right? Even from
Yes.
those times, it was popular. So the ship was called the Flower of the Sea, and then it's sunken somewhere out there. And they say that there are modern day pirates still,
Yeah,
that
of course there are,
patrol
and
the
there are people
Malaysian
still
strait,
looking
right?
for that treasure. So
Uh,
who knows?
hmm,
Like we'll never
hmm.
know. Okay, we have 2 minutes left. How would you like to end this episode? Now,
I have
of course, you've
three fun
yeah.
facts, Neil, for
Okay,
Malaysia.
let's
So
end
I
with
think
three fun facts. I'm excited.
so the first one is that this really goes out to all the women out there and men who like shoes. But Jimmy Choo, the luxury brand Jimmy Choo,
Mm-hmm.
was started by Jimmy Choo, and he's actually Malaysian. So he comes from Malaysia, and he then went on. Queen Elizabeth gave him the Order of the British Empire in 2003, and Jimmy Choo today, he comes from Penang. Actually, he was born in Penang, so he has taken his name all across the world as one of the best shoes that you can find
And
there.
very
So
expensive.
very expensive, but so amazing. The second one is for me today is that the ringgit, which is the currency of Malaysia,
Yeah.
and it's a good idea to carry foreign exchange with you when you go, and of course you can take it from the office itself. So the name ringgit means jagged, and it means like it is cut, and I think it goes down to the Spanish soldiers who were there, had these coins that were with rough edges or jagged edges. And that's how probably that they are saying that the name for ringgit for the currency in Malaysia comes from there. And my last fun tip or fun fact, or not tip, for today is the flower of Malaysia. So I think many people will see a lot of hibiscus flowers when you go to Malaysia, because that is the national flower. And you'll see a lot of it even on those shirts that you buy, those cotton shirts and tropical looking holiday shirts that you see, a lot of hibiscus everywhere in the sarongs that they wear or other places. But more than that, there's a very interesting flower, and that is the stinking corpse lily, or the stinking corpse flower of Malaysia, which is the Rafflesia. Yeah, it's like a weird name. So it's this huge, it's the world's biggest flower, but it's also the world's most terrible smelling flower, or it smells like dead meat. And it blooms only after 9 months, in maybe June, July, something, or after the rains is what they say. And then it turns into this big red petaled flower with some spots on it, and it captures insects. So it attracts insects into it. The insects come in thinking that there's going to be food, and then they can't go out. Or if they manage to fly out, then they help in pollination of the flower, and that's how this grows. So there are actually hiking trips to go and see Rafflesia. So in Kota Kinabalu, in Sabah Sarawak, you can go up to the mountains, and also seen in Indonesia and Thailand in some places. You can actually go out there and do a hiking trip. But if you're lucky, you will see it. But I don't know if you're really lucky to go and see something that smells like dead meat. But yes, this is the biggest flower in the world.
I think let's end it on that, and let's end it with the line that Malaysia gave us through one of the most popular ad campaigns the world has seen. That is, listeners, that was Malaysia, truly Asia. Thank you, Sunila, for coming in. Listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in to Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. We will see you the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.